Hello. Let's look at Donald Trump's chart. It is September of 2024 right now, and we've got exactly 2 months until the 2024 US presidential election. I did a little study on Kamala Harris's chart. This is the first election in a while that we astrologers have had clean birth data for both of the candidates. So this is Donald Trump's birth chart. I've been looking at this chart for 9 years now, gotten a lot of questions and things along the way. What you're looking at is the South Indian version or the Guru Chakra version of this birth chart. On the left side, you'll see that. I'm choosing to use this format so we can also look at the planetary periods on the right-hand side of the screen right now. Donald Trump's chart. And there's a lot of things in this chart I'm not going to talk about, but I didn't feel like putting a new thing together for you. So here we are. What a strong chart. I can't deny it. This is the chart of a king. It really is. And, the problem for Donald Trump at this point is that we're in a presidential election, not a king election. So that could be a problem for him. But let's just take a look. So the first house, and this is his birth data here, June 14th, 1946, at 10:52 a.m. in Jamaica, New York. So first, it gives his first house as a Leo rising. That makes the sun extremely strong for him. The sun, which I often describe as the king itself. And he's got the sun, it ends up sitting up in his 10th house of career, which is a very strong position for the sun. At any given moment in time, the 10th house is straight up in the air. So when we're at noon, when the sun is the strongest in the sky, we've got the sun in the 10th house, generally. So he's got the sun and Rahu, as you can see up there in the 10th house. Rahu tends to act like an amplifier or a microphone, and it really expands whatever other planet's energy it's sitting next to. This AK next to the sun also indicates that it's his soul indicator planet, Atmakaraka. So the sun is extremely important for Donald Trump. And in fact, if you look to the right-hand side, you can't see the whole column. But the sun period of his life, which I think started in the mid-70s, was probably when he got onto all of our radar. If you've been alive that long, he married Ivana Trump during that time. He just started to come up as a real estate mogul, and we all heard his name starting in the 70s and 80s, especially. So. Anyway, sun super strong. And then we also want to look at Leo in general. When we have a Leo rising, Mars becomes an extremely powerful and potent force for Leos. It is the ruler of his 4th house, which is a Kendra house. 1, 4, 7, and 10 are the Kendras. And it also rules the 9th house, which is a Trikona house, 1, 5, and 9. Now, in any given chart, when one planet rules both a Trikona and a Kendra house, it becomes a Raj Yoga Karak, meaning it is a very powerful planet. It gives all kinds of power like a king. So for him, Mars is really strong. It's really potent. And by itself, Mars rules power. That's really what Mars's job is. And he has that Mars sitting right in his 1st house. So it was almost like he was born with this power right in his hand. The other thing I want to point out that's, I think, very interesting about Donald Trump vis-a-vis the king thing. If you study the charts of a lot of the royal family of UK, of England, there's a lot of eclipses that run through that family, not only the family itself, but the people who marry into that family. So eclipses are so dramatic and interesting, but Donald Trump was born right at right at a lunar eclipse here, so you can see the degrees. The moon and sun are nearly opposite. That means almost to the moment of the full moon, and Ketu and Rahu are right there too. So this is a total full lunar eclipse this guy was born on, which I think is interesting. So what are his really big assets? The sun, Mars, Rahu, really strong planet, even the moon. The moon is tricky for him because it's a full moon, so that's strong, but it's a debilitated moon. So there's a point off for that. Also, the moon is the ruler of the 12th house for him, which is the house of loss and liberation. So it's kind of mixed. I would say the moon is good and bad for him, but probably more good. And then Mercury. Mercury's pretty strong for Donald Trump too. He's got Mercury in its own sign in Gemini. It's the 2nd house ruler and the 11th house ruler, both houses of wealth. So he knows how to move money around. That's evident. Very, very wealthy chart. I would say a ding in his wealth would come with this Jupiter in the 2nd house. Jupiter's mixed for him. For Leo rising, Jupiter rules a very good house, the 5th house, and it also rules a difficult, challenging house, the 8th house. The 8th house, I think, is what's tricky for him. The 8th house can be debts. It's the house of other people's money. It's the 2nd house from the 7th. So he's very skilled with other people's money and convincing people to let him invest their money. So Leo people are generally pretty good investors. They have good instincts about investment, and also good luck with investment. Jupiter is the 5th house ruler of 5th house investments, children, all creative issue, and it's also the 8th house ruler. So that can get you in debt too. The tricky part is Jupiter. See the underline here? Jupiter is retrograde for Donald Trump. So his use of Jupiter is going to be a little different from, the straight and narrow Jupiter. So a little tricky. Anyway, so let's look over here at this timeline he's got. So Mars period was strong for him. Rahu period was strong for him. Both of those were in the list I mentioned as assets for him. Rahu especially, he was elected president. Down here you can see started in the very end of his Rahu major period and the beginning of his Mars minor period was October of 2015. And then he shifted into the Jupiter period November 17th of 2016. That was just after he got elected president. So Rahu Mars got him elected as president. Mars, remember, is his big, powerful, king-making planet there. And Rahu's in the 10th house, which 10th house is, hey, we're in the office, we're a famous man, we're president now. So Rahu Mars was great for him. Jupiter period has been tricky for Donald. He's got the Jupiter in the 2nd house, so yes, still money and everything like that. But it's that retrograde Jupiter. As it turns out, he ran for election here again in Jupiter-Saturn. And he didn't win the popular vote, and he didn't win the Electoral College. So Saturn is a little tricky for Donald Trump. It's the 6th house ruler and the 7th house ruler, and it's placed in the 12th house here with Venus, who's also a mixed planet for him. It's the 10th house ruler, which is fame and fortune, and also the 3rd house ruler, which is, basic human communication and functioning. So you can straight up say, well, Saturn's in the house of loss, and Jupiter is a little bit tricky because it's the 8th house ruler. Some of his debts might have come up to haunt him at this point. So that's what happened. Jupiter, Saturn, he didn't win the presidential election. And fast forward to now, he's trying again. And look here, down here in the bottom right corner, I'm showing you that October of 2023, he entered Jupiter major K2 minor. That's the period that he's in right this minute, and that he's been campaigning under up until now. As you can see, on September 30th of this year, he's going to shift to Jupiter Venus, which could be interesting. Let's see what happens. That's just a month before the election. I'm thinking Jupiter Venus is probably a better period for him, probably a little bit better than Jupiter K2. So he's got that going for him. But again, Venus is in his 12th house. It's in the house of loss, similar to Saturn. He was in Jupiter Saturn the last time he didn't win that election. Now he's in Jupiter Venus. So they're a pair. That could not work out well. The other point to think about is that during the election, Mars will be transiting through Cancer. This is November of 2024. Mars is his big power planet, the 4th and 9th house ruler. And it will also be transiting through his 12th house of loss. So, all of that stacking up doesn't look very good for him winning. But, gosh, he's really pulled out a lot of things we've never seen the like of before. So that's a little tough for Donald Trump. I'm going to shift over to his, this is his D10 chart. For those who know, the D10 tells us about somebody's career and the work that they do. And so I'm just looking at this vis-a-vis that particular question. Will he win this election? Now, it's interesting. In his D10, if you look down here, the rising sign becomes Libra, which is a very political rising sign. And we'll do a quick study of Kamala Harris's D10 in another video. But please note that when we're looking at the D10 chart, we're recalling that his 10th house in his natal chart, had Sun and Rahu up here in Taurus. Now, those two planets in this chart have come to the first house. Interesting thing. Back 30 years ago, we might not have thought, Donald Trump will ever run for president. He's a great businessman. This is also a good chart for a businessman. It's also a good chart for a politician, quite honestly. And so let's see. That seems like he's in the right place, right time, especially during the Rahu period. Rahu Mars, he won. He won the presidency. So now he's in the Jupiter period. Jupiter for a Libra rising is a little bit challenging. It's the 3rd house and 6th house ruler. So it shows having to fight. And it's placed over here in the 4th house in Capricorn. Okay, that's interesting. It's a debilitated Capricorn planet being in Capricorn, but it's retrograde. So it's a little bit mixed. The 4th house puts Jupiter here in a position to aspect the 8th house and the 12th house, which is, again, the house of losing. So will Jupiter Venus be supportive of this particular 10th divisional chart? I don't know. 8th house is ruled by Venus in this chart, and that is a difficult house in any kind of chart. Venus is placed in the 6th house in this chart with Saturn. Remember, we had Saturn and Venus in the 12th in his regular natal chart. This is kind of similar energy. Saturn and Venus kind of don't have as much potency for him in the fight as Mars and Rahu did, even in this chart. So it looks like it's going to be a struggle for Donald Trump to pull this one out. I guess we'll see. Best of luck to both candidates. It's a really interesting election, isn't it? So I just wanted to point this one out as his Navamsha chart. The 9th house of anybody's chart can show us a lot about their path. And for Donald Trump, Mars is the ruler of that 9th house. The Navamsha chart should tell us more about that. Oh, how interesting. In this one, he's got Mars in the first in his Navamsha chart. Let's check out to see Jupiter. What is Jupiter's role in this chart? It's the 8th house and 11th house lord. Again, a little bit of a difficult job for Jupiter. His Mars Rahu period is going to be a lot stronger. Rahu period and Mars period were going to be a lot stronger. Jupiter period has been a little tough for him. And I'm not sure that Jupiter, even the only thing he has going for him is Jupiter transiting through his first house right now. It's not all he has going for him. He's got a lot going for him, but that would help. That would help him. So we'll see. Please leave your comments. Let me know what you think. This is just a study of a birth chart. I'm not trying to judge anybody. Just trying to predict which is the stronger contender for our upcoming election. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens.